great divide in this country, the divide that occurred 240 years ago at the American Revolution, and the divide that we face every day, is the divide between the struggle for individual liberties versus the power of government. Our New York State Senator Fred Akshar has served a career in law enforcement protecting our individual liberties. And when Tom Libous, our previous state senator, was taken with cancer, and we had to find somebody that could step into his shoes, Tom Libous had a great history, a great tradition of protecting our rights and looking out for upstate New York. And we couldn't find anybody better than Fred Akshar to step into that position, run an election. He's got a tough Democrat opponent this time around who wants to side with the New York City liberals who want to take away your rights here in upstate New York. And it's going to be Fred Akshar that's going to stand in her way and say, hell no, we're going to look out for upstate New York. We're going to protect our constitutional rights. We will not yield, and we will not give in to the New York City liberals that look at upstate New York as a giant park. Let's welcome our state senator, Fred Akshar.
How about a big round of applause for Bill? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am State Senator Fred Akshar, and I want to first thank Scope for inviting me this afternoon. Thank you very much. And as a former member of law enforcement, I do take gun safety very seriously and gun responsibility very seriously. But in my new role as state senator, I think it's important that we preserve our Second Amendment rights that so many men and women have fought and died for over the last 2 decades. I want to go on the record that the vote on the SAFE Act happened long before my time, but I do not support the SAFE Act. Nor do I support the way it was passed in the middle of the night without any conversations, public comment, or debate. It's another example of a law that was passed without any thought or concern for those of us upstate that live in New York. Now look, as a member of law enforcement, I know well that if a criminal wants a firearm, he or she is going to get it, regardless of how many laws we have on the books. Now, we have members of law enforcement with us. I see Under Sheriff Frere is over there in the corner. I don't know about you, but I am sick and goddamn tired of people railing against our law enforcement.
Hear ya.
I truly am. In a time in which this country is divided, these men and women put their uniform on every single day to protect us. So listen, I'm brutally honest. A full repeal of the SAFE Act, in my humble opinion, is a non-starter with this governor. And quite frankly, it's a non-starter with the downstate Democrats that control the Assembly. Right, Bill? And I think barring a dramatic shift in the landscape in Albany, I think we have to do our best to just chip away at the SAFE Act the best that we can. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the downstate Democrats that my colleague in the Assembly talked about. We had a bill this year in codes that came about where a downstate Democrat wanted to pass a piece of legislation that would require all of us to keep our firearms in one lockbox and the ammunition and the magazine in another lockbox in a totally separate place. Now, how in God's name are we supposed to protect our families? And I don't have the answer to a question like that. But this is why it's so critically important, folks, that we maintain the majority in the New York State Senate so that we can continue to advocate for upstate values and we can ensure that the downstate Democrats don't control our way of life in upstate New York. I can assure you that groups like Scope, who advocate for our Second Amendment rights, will continue to have my support as their voice in Albany, as I know that my friend Chris Naylor will tell you. Our door is always open. And as legislation comes to the floor, I'll continue to carefully examine it to make sure that I'm protecting the freedom of our constituents and the freedoms of our community. I want to, again, thank Scope for having me here today. I'm proud to be your voice, and I'm honored to be your New York State Senator. Thank you.
Senator Fred Akshar, and I'll tell you folks, there is nothing. Those of you who listen to my radio show once in a while know that I've got views about this or that, and sometimes we do Yosemite Sam. But I will tell you flat out, there is nothing that is more important to the future of upstate New York's economy, that we keep the state Senate in Republican hands and that we re-elect our state senators like Fred Akshar, who's going to look out for our interests and protect them against the New York City Democrats that would turn us into a giant park and take away our rights. So Senator Akshar, thank you again for everything that you do.
Okay, so let's just